Welcome to the James and Just podcast. Ding. Anyways, that was awful. I apologize in advance, and someday I'll make a real song. But right now, I'm gonna get into something pretty cool. Now, I was talking about like traumas and stuff that still affect me to this day, and I thought, how interesting is it to hear other people's traumas? You know, real people's traumas, like things that you still carry. And I got 3 of them. I got a lot more, but some people out there a little lazy with the writing, but that's okay. Sometimes maybe you don't want to share, and I understand. Or you're too busy, because that also happens. But I got 3 of them for you, and they are very real. These people are very real. If you know, as you hear your story, as I read it, shout out to you and thank you so much. We're not gonna share anybody's name. I know some of you were cool with that, some of you weren't. The point is, like, as a whole, these are very true stories. If you don't believe me, obviously you haven't been listening long enough. I'm completely honest about this. Trust me, they're real, and it's something. So let's get into the first one. Now, I'm gonna be completely honest with this right here. This is my 3rd chance trying to get this, because I read like garbage. I'm not even trying to like downplay it or try to make it seem cool. I am butchering these stories badly, so I have to keep starting. So here we go. Hopefully this is the one. Here we go. My nose is itchy. Don't blame me. As as far as I can remember, my mom was always sick, like legit illnesses. Hepatitis C due to a bad blood transfusion, diabetes, and other underlying conditions. Now, that wasn't her fault she got sick, but as a kid, I had to take care of her. I can remember elementary school days where she was so sick she couldn't get out of bed to get me ready or to make sure I had what I needed. Junior high was just the same. I couldn't do much or go places because I had to watch her. High school, she started to get addicted to pain medication, which turned out she had a brain tumor. I got homeschooled to live in a cancer and AIDS apartment because she needed to get treatments. We were told she wouldn't make it to see my graduation, but she did. I had a best friend that would stay with me, so we weren't alone. My mom ended up in rehab twice that I can remember due to pain medication. I was so upset that she didn't take care of herself. I was hurt and angry and questioned why she didn't love us enough to take care of herself. My sorry. My mom died when I was 20. I didn't cry because I had to be strong for everyone else. I'm still angry because the flip side was my mom was an amazing person to everyone. She took people in no matter their situation. She loves the unloved. She knew how to make people feel amazing about themselves. This experience has made me a stronger mom. I am hard on my kids and I have higher expectations for them, but I love them. I try to be healthy and attend everything for them, even if I'm exhausted. I don't ever want them to feel that their mom wasn't available. I don't like going to doctors or taking medication because it reminds me of her. I think of all the things I was jealous about her doing for others, and I'm exactly like her. P.S. Just in case you're wondering, my dad was and is amazing. He stood by her side till the day she died. He was the one who raised me, even though he didn't know what to do with a daughter, so I was a bit of a tomboy. Here's my story. Thanks for having me on your show. And thank you for sharing it. That's wild, right? I'm telling you, if you were to see this person, you'd be like, oh, fancy, well put together, cool. And that's what she comes from a sick mom, from having to take care of her, from her whole life having to adjust to someone else. You know what I mean? It's a lot of like, yo, you're a kid, you get to do whatever you want. You know what I mean? Your parents watch you. Blah, blah, blah. I remember that's always like the dream. That's what you see on TV, and it's like, yeah, that's what I want my life to be. But it never, ever turns out to be that way. It always is a lot more serious. It's always a lot more stressful. Even as a kid, it just depends where you grow up, really, and what kind of parents you have. Because you could have money, and your parents are trash, or you could be broke and your parents are great. That also happens too. Sometimes you get a mixture. Life's never cut and dry. So, as far as this goes, like, this is life. You know what I mean? This is why I wanted to share it, because I have my own issues, but so do regular people. And sometimes they're not just like, oh yeah, I couldn't go to college because I got. No, it's not just simple shit like that. It's real. Like, my mother was sick a lot. Do you imagine walking around school just thinking about that? Just by the end of the day, you're going home and you're already stressed out about your family. You know what I'm saying? It's one thing to just roll with everything, but it's another thing to have an illness versus just chaos. So it's, it's a hard road. And for the person who walked this line, I applaud you. You're an amazing person, for reals. I don't just throw that out there. You really are. Thank you for sharing. We have another one here. Oh, this is something too. I was supposed to have a third story, but they got kind of busy, so they couldn't really shoot it. But the main idea was, when they were younger, they were always treated as they were wrong, or they were at fault. So like something would happen in their neighborhood, that was their fault. Something would break in the house, that was their fault. Somebody said that it was their fault, and it was their fault, regardless of any, trial or evidence or anything. And that type of mentality is what they carry. And now they're that person who they're like, oh yeah, you did this. No, I didn't. Don't say that. And they get overly aggressive over that one subject. So if you think about it, if you were to be, looked at like, yeah, you did this for your whole life, when you become an adult and somebody says you did this and you didn't do it, you just snap. I didn't do it. You did that. Don't tell nobody. I'll fuck you up. Like, that's that. I get it. I completely understand it. That's what a lot of people don't understand. That's why some people just snap, because they were treated badly or in a certain way that they're gonna respond in an extreme way. I didn't do that. Don't blame me. Don't look at me like that. I'm not some terrible person. Right? This is where it all comes from, and this is why I think it's interesting to talk about, because nobody talks about it. Everybody likes to glaze over their childhood like it wasn't bad, but and then they're like racist, or they're this and they're that. It's like, well, where does all that come from? You really just born that way, or you were conditioned that way? So that's why we talk about this stuff. And this right here, the story I just read, that person has to carry. My mother was always sick, and she couldn't be there for me, and I had to be there for her. So now I'm gonna keep myself healthy, and I'm gonna be there for my kids regardless. And that's a great way to look at it. You know what I mean? Because that's what a mother is supposed to be. But now she has to do that. There is no, maybe I won't see the kids think. No, I have to go. For all the times my mom couldn't go, I have to be there. And that's why you kind of understand where people come from, the background of why they exist the way they do. And that's diversity in a nutshell, really. That's where diversity comes from, is you dealing with some kind of struggle, in different places with different people, and then you just, bam, you can overcome so much. So, again, great story. Thank you for sharing. I got another one here, and this one's a little more graphic. Not immensely, but just in case you were thinking this was all gonna be just like sad stories or whatever, this one's a little more hardcore. So let's get into it. Again, if I butcher it, I apologize. I'm not good at reading. I'm just not. I'm being honest. So let's go. I consider myself a very smart woman, but unfortunately, I haven't always made the right choices. I was dating a man 20 years older than me, but I found out he had a girlfriend and he wouldn't leave her, so I broke up with him. But I could not believe because I had but I could not leave because I had nowhere to go and I had no money, no place of my own. He continued to believe that I belonged to him. He was very jealous and possessive and wanted to keep both of us, and I would not agree to that. He had one rule that I had to follow because I was in his house. I could never have anyone over. One day he left to see his girlfriend, and I was left by myself at the house. So I was wrong. So I thought it was cool. I'm guessing, but I was very wrong because several hours later, he showed up, and I had someone in the room with me. He kicked them out and proceeded to beat me to a pulp. He fractured my finger, bruised my neck, my shoulders, and my face. He grabbed me by my feet and pulled me off the bed. I fell and I hit my head and I fractured my finger. He continued to torture me all night long by throwing glasses of water at me, and every time I changed because I was freezing, he would throw more water and there was nothing I could do. He took my phone away and locked me in the house. I did not have the strength nor the willpower to fight him off. When he finally got tired of beating me and taking my phone and throwing water at me, he fell asleep. At that point, I saw the opportunity to escape. I took my phone and I called my friend, and he told me to get my stuff, and he picked me up 15 minutes and rescued me, and I've never felt safer or happier. And that is my story. Be the type of person that when you wake up in the morning and your feet hit the ground, even the devil says, "Oh fuck, she's awake." Nobody, and for no reason, has the right to beat you or treat you like a dog. I'd rather die than go through that again. My parents took me back and told me that I had to go to rehab if I wanted to live with them, and I did. And I've been sober for 2 years now, thanks to them. See what I'm saying? See what I'm saying? This is a real story. This is a real human being that has to go through this. And that person has to carry that for the rest of their lives. Cause you understand what I'm saying? Like, let's say you're accidentally locked in a car. That kicks in your mind like, oh shit, like I'm back there right away. And that's something you have to work at. Or somebody accidentally spills water on you, you might go crazy. And they don't know why. They just think you're crazy. Like, oh, look, this person is not well adjusted. Obviously, we go through these traumas, very real traumas. Could you imagine? Somebody beats you, cheats on you, and then has the audacity to throw water on you constantly? Like, that's some, like, mentally, that ruins you in that moment. But it also, like, makes you think, wow, how did you let it get like that? Right? Because that's what you think. I'm a strong woman. No. In the moment, you can be dropped. You can be broken. Anybody can. Everybody says, like, yeah, I'm willing to die. I'm willing to stand on my feet, then be on my knees. Yeah, until it's time for you to really look at the light. What you gonna do? Then the real you comes out. And sometimes they can break you to a point that you forget who the real you is. And that's what happened to her. She forgot how real strong she was. He broke her down to a point that she just forgot, or she just didn't think of herself in a strong capacity anymore. And that sucks, because that's another person's doing. That isn't like, you're disabled in some way. Somebody is breaking you down to a point that you feel you can't escape. That's kind of like when they kidnap children, and they be like, yo, you're gonna stay in this house or I'm gonna kill you. And then they stay in the house. They don't go anywhere. You easily run away, but the sheer fear that they've instilled in you is incredible. You're not going anywhere. You're not doing anything. So, again, thank you for sharing this story. This is, it sucks. You know what I mean? You just grow up this way. It sucks. And, yeah, she was a woman when it happened. Not a kid, but that's still something she has to live with and she has to deal with. So thank you for sharing your story. Again, this is all about just kind of getting stuff out there. And so far, these two stories, they play on different sides of stuff. It's like, one is you can't help it. You're a child. Your mom is sick. This next one is you can help it, but someone else is breaking you down to that point that you feel you can't. And that's a very real mental thing that some people have powers over other people. You know, I'm not real powers. Grow up. I'm just playing. But they have an ability to take over you, and that's a problem. But I don't think down on anybody who has that problem, because it could happen to anybody. It happened to you. It happened to me. It happened to us when we were younger. What do you think your parents do? They downplay you, or they knock you down and you never get back up. That's, yeah, they're doing that to you. So it's the same ideal. And that, again, this is what we're talking about. Being young, your mom has issues, you can't help it. She's older, she's put in a place where she can't do anything, and she feels like she can't escape. Now, what about the kids? What about kids that are around the situation? That's what's great about this next story. This next story is the kid's perspective from all this. And I'm gonna be honest with you again, because I'm really proud to read this. But this was a little longer and very well worded, so I'm gonna look stupid reading this. Just hang in there with me, because it is really good. All right. And again, thank you guys for sharing so far. Let's continue. Oh man, this is really well worded. Like, this is good. This is like a writer, and I am not a good reader, so hang in there. A blood stain on the wall faced me each day before I went to school. Its color faded from red to brown, but it never disappeared. Like a wound that would not heal, it was there as a reminder on good days and bad. It would greet me each morning as if to reacquaint me each day with the underlying violence that governed my family's life. I'm sorry. It was a mark stained with the blood of my mother's head. It was placed there when my father bashed her head against the wall just outside of our apartment. This was not unusual. My parents fought like vicious enemies. They fought with enormous passion. They had been together since they were 14 years old. I often thought, this is all they know. It's a sad reality that what is known in the rest of America as domestic abuse is known in the ghetto as nobody else's business. So often, in impoverished neighborhoods, when a man beats a woman and she takes him back into her arms, it's considered a kind of permission by neighbors to numb their ears to the desperate pleas of mothers and children. It's a harrowing reality that I'm sure some people hearing this can relate to intimately. My parents fought a lot. My father beat my mother, and she beat us, her children, mercilessly. Anything within arm's reach was a weapon. Toys, shoes, boiling water, we got it all. Fists, kicks, stranglings. No attack was too vicious for my mother to employ on her children. She was a drinker and prone to sadness and rage. I always felt sorry for her. When the fire died down and the ashes cooled, I always looked upon her as a frightened and wounded animal. I could never be angry at her for long. Her story is not mine to tell, but she had it far worse growing up than we did. I could always forgive her very easily. After about 5 or 6 years in prison, my father came home even more deranged than ever. The cruel survival instinct of prison had further corrupted his nature. There was a time in which my mother thought she was permanently blind in one eye from one of his beatings. Like a miracle, one day her sight returned, and we rejoiced with the same jubilation that must have been exhibited when Jesus achieved that same fate, giving vision to the blind. Shortly after this, my mother and I conspired to run away, and she and I and my siblings, minus one brother who was incarcerated, whom we would write to once we were where fate had landed us. I had called a non-profit organization, and they relocated abused women and children and housed them in new cities to start a new life. I can't remember where my father was at the time. All I remember is that he had been gone for a few days, banished by my mother for some ungodly offense. Our bags were packed. I set an alarm. We'd meet a liaison at the bus station in the morning, and that was that. I went to sleep nervous and excited. The relocation program boasted housing, therapy, financial assistance, and educational opportunities for my mother. In the morning, I rushed to wake my mother, but there, sleeping next to her, was my father, her arm around him. She looked so peaceful. At that moment, I was done. I was done trying to understand. I was done trying to intervene. I was done trying to make anyone proud of me. I was done trying to save anyone. What my mother and father had between them was none of my business. They could kill each other for all I cared. The next 10 years of my life would be full of increasingly aggressive drinking and drug use, derailing a promising start to a promising life. Watching them my whole life, I always assumed that I could never end up like them. But the traditions of my family are hard to break. So in many ways, I ended up just like them. But that was many years ago. My father is dead now. During my adult life, he and my mother had wild ups and downs. I learned to remain willfully ignorant to the details of their relationship. Again, they had been together since they were 14 years old. They were bound together in a way that no one, not even themselves, could sever. In the end, I'm glad that my father is at peace. I'm glad that my mother has an opportunity to move on. Their parting should have happened so much sooner. Better late than never, I guess. See what I'm saying? Like, man, read terribly, written beautifully, and I applaud you. That's an amazing story to share. The biggest thing about it is that's the effects that all this has. As a kid, this person tried to fix it, tried to change their mother's perspective, try to get away. But in the end, they couldn't, because it wasn't their job. It's not up to them. It's not supposed to be. And I feel for this person because, again, seeing them so well put together, so elegant, and just able to write this kind of material, it's amazing, right? But you would have never known that, seeing that where they come from. And that's just personal growth, honestly. I mean, I'm sure they've had times where they were down, like they said. But now, the sheer personal growth that they've accomplished is incredible. All of these people, they've all got to a place where they're great when they come from just broken places. Just wow, you know what I mean? And it makes me really appreciate who I am, because their stories are so compelling. Mine pales in comparison. Yeah, I've had a lot of little issues and things inside of my mind, and sometimes I go crazy and lose my mind, and you know what I mean, everything sets in, the depression, the anxiety, the intrusive thoughts. But these people at one point didn't have a choice, or felt like they didn't have a choice, which is pretty much the same thing. And at that particular moment, I can't imagine what kind of dread comes over you. Just, and I know what I'm telling you here, because it goes right inside of you. It sinks in. It's so gross. It feels nasty. And as much as these people share, I'll be honest with you as well. I've said this before. I don't know if you've really heard me, but I've had just night terrors for what seems like a couple years now. And it all came from me understanding who I was and looking back at where I came from. Because there's one point I couldn't understand why I did the things I did. And these night terrors always involve being touched, being grabbed, being held in like a very grotesque way. I have nightmares of people grabbing me. I wake up with certain body parts tingling, and not the good kind. I mean real, like for reals. And sometimes I have to grab onto my wife just because I'm terrified. And I don't know, I'm pretty sure the memories are there. but I don't know if I could take them. This is what the world is to me. It's a scary place. My friend just found out how much of a pessimist I am. And that means that I look at everything so negatively. You know, it's like, the world is such a beautiful place. I'm like, oh, the world's an ugly place. You get murdered anywhere. It's like, well, what about these wonderful places? You get murdered there too. I'm sure they have a crime rate. I am such a negative person. And it's come from stuff like that. The nightmares, the memories I have to fight for. You know, it's like, oh, I don't remember that, or I don't remember. Like, I don't remember a lot. So when I look back, I'm like, I used to do that? Like, yeah. I remember when people were approaching me and they're like, you're such a bully, you're such a jerk. What? Me? Yeah, you're right. I just didn't know that I was doing that to other people. And I apologize. That's all I can do. I just try to move on and not be that way. But these memories I have to fight for, I still haven't hit a real hardcore memory. I'm scared to. I don't know if I'm ready. Only my brain knows that. But if I really find out what the nightmares are about, what locking the door in every house that I walk into is about, what peeking out the window when everyone's asleep just to see if anyone's outside is about, if I really find out what all that paranoia is and fear that's always been instilled in me, it's probably going to break my heart. Just like I'm sure these people's hearts are broken too. So I keep that in the back of my mind, that that's still a possibility. Don't ever think that just because you don't remember the trauma, it's not there. Or just because you went through it doesn't affect you in some way. It does. And somehow you just live with it. Because there's nothing else you could do. You can't get rid of it. You can't just throw it away. That takes time. That takes effort. Effort that a lot of people don't have. And time also people don't have. You gotta work. People gotta eat. School's gotta happen. Oh man, school's the worst right now too. You gotta sit here with the kids and all that other crap. Oh, I love my son. I do. Son, I'm pulling for you. But man, that sucks. School sucks so bad right now. On the computer and everything we have to do with the coronavirus. We're so distant and we're trying to get together, and it's a nightmare. So what I want to say is, again, thank you to everybody who sent in their stuff. I really do appreciate it. Maybe that's something I'll do more in the future of, because a lot of people have issues, and if you could get them off your chest here, and I'll read them. I don't care. You know, it's me. I don't ever look back and be like, maybe I shouldn't have said that. I don't give a fuck. If I meant it, I said it, right? And if I didn't, well, I excuse myself. Obviously, I'm an adult. Do whatever I want. So, yeah. Thank you for listening to me today. I hope you have a great day. Just try to remember, these traumas, if you look back, they are over with. There is room to grow. And you're better off for going through it. I know. It's like, I would never want to go through that. I would never want my kids to go through that. Nobody should go through that. I know. But the fact that it already happened is something you should look at as a plus. Because me personally, I can't regret a single thing in my life. Everything that's happened got me right here to this moment talking to you. That right there, I can't regret anything from back then. I can't change it either. That's just me being realistic. So I just want to say thank you for listening. I hope you guys have a great day. And until next time, peace. I'm not good at that. Anyways, bye.